All right, hello everyone. This is Jesse with VVMTG, and a bit of a different video today that I want to bring you guys. It seems like a lot of you guys want to know a little bit more about the format and the people involved, just looking at some of the videos that have been doing well. So something a little different today that I want to do is I want to bring in just somebody who is pretty heavily involved in the format. Who I have here today is Haidle, who I just rehearsed how to say his name with him since I pronounce it incorrectly. But he is one of our admins in the Discord community. He is, I think, been in the format for a pretty long time. In fact, if you want to actually just get into that, like kind of who you are, how you got into the format, because you're actually in a unique spot where a lot of the admins and mods are actually like Cincinnati locals, and while you're in like Indiana area,
Yeah,
you're not in that original group, I guess, that, would be around there. So if you want to get into just how you got involved there, and got to where you're at.
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it's kind of an interesting story. So, like, I represent quite a lot of the community at large, in the way that they came into the format. So my name's Brian Heidle. I was a modern Indianapolis grinder from probably about 2011 to that COVID era, right around there, just a little bit further through COVID. I was done playing. I literally had sold all of my Magic cards except for a few things, and was completely done. And a couple friends took me out to SCG Indy in 2023, so almost 3 years ago now. And it was like February of 2023, and I was just like, I I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll play some modern side events. I still own Dredge. I still you know, kept up a little bit with the format and like talk to people. But like, I really just wanted to go out and hang out. And that happened to be the first tournament that Rusty and Everett were promoting at, and like trying to get people to try the format and do things. And so they were giving out packs for people that won games. And they had the big wheel and everything, and kind of just like I came in, I spun the wheel, saw that there was dredge on the board, picked up their dredge deck, tried it for one game, uh, berated them for how badly it was built, and they challenged me to build a better deck, and I just kind of fell in love with the format. Uh, I took like another 6 month hiatus from Magic, but then whenever I came back, all I wanted to play was Value Vintage. So that's just how I kind of came back into the format. It was kind of cool.
It's funny that before going any farther, just like your take on Dredge, I did the same thing with like a few decks whenever I first started. Like I saw some like Ripfield decks where I was just looking through it. I'm like, because it's even now it's like a deck that doesn't really get played a whole lot, and I would say it's like my specialist deck. But when I went to Apex and played my first 1K, I like before when I was building decks, I can't even remember some of the cards that were like in the list. But I'm like, why are people playing these cards? Like I'm like looking up, I'm like, this card's cheap, this card's cheap, this card's cheap, and even the guy who won, I'm pretty sure his name's Connor, but he was playing Oops at the time because you could do all
Oh
the Oops
yeah,
stuff
I
super
remember this
cheap.
1K.
Yeah, and they were like on like no sideboard Oops, and then people were playing Oops with like really odd sideboard cards. And he's like, "What are we doing? Like, why are we like?" And it's funny because the format is still, we have like 6,000 members in the Discord, but when you think about it, like that's such a small amount of people. Whenever there might be like a handful of people working on that deck. Um, but yeah, I like how you like brought up, you kind of met everybody at the events at SCG. How did you kind of get from, because I imagine you probably were a mod first and then an admin. Um, like, was that just kind of doing things over time, or did you have like a lot of online involvement, or how did you really get to that, involvement there?
Yeah, so back in the day, we didn't have the term admin yet. The initial, I believe it was like five or six of them, were all in Cincinnati. So Rusty Everett and that group, were all in Cincinnati. Doug, my brain is not getting there on other names. I'm sorry, but that group that was running it was all in Cincinnati, and they didn't really have the term admin. They were just mods on the Discord, and they were essentially were people that were just like trying to promote the format, run the format, have some fun, get people interested. And my first interaction with them was, and like this kind of goes into something that we might talk about a little later, which is the thing that I wanted to do the most in the format was I saw a lot of people that were talking about, I don't have a local format, how do I a local scene, how do I play? And I just like, I'd sit here and I'd try to find a game and try to find a game online, and nobody was really playing. So I really wanted to try to like promote people playing online. So I came up with a couple ideas of like getting people to play weekly MTGO tournaments and like talked with Scuffle, who was pretty involved with the format at that time, about getting, some weekly tournaments going on and doing some TO type stuff with it and then streaming some of that just to get the format name out there, but also to get people interested in playing and able to play if they were, in North Carolina like Dude or in Pittsburgh like you guys, uh, and not able to really like, play the format. So I really wanted to find a way for them to play. And whenever I went to the first 1K at Mavericks, that I was able to attend, I think this was right around the same time as that Apex 1K. uh that was like my second time meeting all of those guys. I'd been out there a couple times, but that was like my second time meeting all those guys. And I played a dredge deck, and they were all prepared for me because I had been testing and like talking about it and like pretty involved. And then like the next time I went out there, Rusty just like pulled me aside and was like, "Hey man, like we have this idea. Do you want to be a mod of the channel? Of the Discord?" And then whenever I became a mod, one of the first things that I was looking at was, I mean, we were under 1,000 members at that point, and there were six of us. And I was already like, hey guys, like this isn't a full time job for any of us. This can be a little bit daunting. We might want to look at like getting more people in here. Whenever things kind of started exploding a little bit, and we started seeing, uh, getting into that like over that 1,000 member hump, which then made it to where people could just find us, and it wasn't that we were inviting people. Now they were just finding us and joining. Uh, as soon as we hit that hump, we came up with the idea of like having the six of us that had been mods become admins of the format. So if the format needed to change or needed things done, that we would take care of it, and then we would get in more people to be moderators. And that's where Derek and Duke came from, and that group.
Yeah, it has I'm even trying to think timelines because like I remember being under 2000 for sure when I just joined. Right around those times of those like first, because that was like the first also Apex 1K, and the whole reason
Mhm.
that I joined was because I was like, I'm hearing a lot about this, and like from my past with just trying to grind SEG events, like the RCQs and everything. For me, I was like, all right, this is more than just like people want to play online or like trying to start like another popper FNM type deal. Like this is like I could actually do this kind of like how I would grind before. And it is crazy to think too, like there were also times just trying to play online or I know a lot of people play on like Trace, but at the end of the day, like now you can go in and I did that league the other night and I got 5 games like within the span of like a couple hours. It's like it's kind of crazy the growth that's just been like within the last two, it's not even really been 2 years, I don't think. I think it's just been like yeah, like a year and a half or something. So it's really cool to see that like, we've seen so much growth with it. And I think something that's funny there too is like uh bring it up about Dredge because like we're gonna talk about like other decks that like you enjoy and things that you think are like dark horses and you keep bringing up Dredge and I think a lot of people now associate you with like Channel Mirror and it's like, no, like I remember joining and everybody being like, you need at least 4 pieces of grave hate because of oops, because of dredge. And like I played against dredge like one time at like a small kind of get together that like somebody just had. And, and now it's like like I still like I see Dredge a little bit now coming on like the climb again, but overall it's like we we had still so much fear from just things that you have brought at some point that people are like, this is scary. And I just think that's like really funny.
Yeah, I definitely I'm a person. I really enjoy playing fair magic, and like that's something that a lot of people don't get about me
Do you?
is
Do you?
because I've built all of these unfair decks, but I really enjoy playing fair magic. I just my brain is really well tuned to figure out a puzzle.
Yeah.
And so Dredge was something that like I said, it brought me into the format. I really worked on it. Poxwalkers, rest in peace. Please get reprinted. Come
Yeah.
on, Watsy. Universe is within. Let's give me one.
And they could
Uh
there's like nothing with that card that they couldn't just reprint it, right? Like there's not like
oh
I
yeah, no.
yeah, like does
They
it have
just
like
they
that
couldn't use
weird
the name.
okay, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. They wouldn't be allowed to use the name because of Warhammer 40K, because of how their contract works with that. But they could just reprint it. Same with Triumph of St. Catherine. Same with a couple of the other like heavy like staple cards from that form from those commander decks from the Warhammer 40K stuff.
I feel like Poxwalkers is also not like trying to say cap and I could be like, oh yeah, you're using our IP. Poxwalkers is just like a name. That's just like a descriptor.
Yeah.
Like those are just sick guys. Um,
Yeah. It's a pretty heavy like reference to Warhammer 40K. So, but I mean, it again, like it's a really cool card. But like I said, like people just like people associate me with a lot of the like unfair decks in the format. Obviously like the dredge deck that your most recent video played against, that was me playing that blue dredge deck. I think that that deck is criminally underplayed. There's a lot of people have gone away from a lot of graveyard hate recently. There still is Ripfield, which is basically an auto loss for that deck, which is you're one of the people that like made me kind of stop playing that deck for a second and set that down because I kept like queuing into you whenever testing and like on MTGO. And it was like, great, I can't play Dredge. I can't actually work on this deck. So I had to try something different.
Yeah,
Um,
which is funny because like I I still see like nearly like I actually I get like excited if I just see like a random like Southern State or like I think somebody at the one German tournament was playing like Ripfield and I get like
mhm,
excited because I want to see like and the one guy did this the one time too where he like posted um like oh I got the like mail day like excited thing for energy field and I was like oh sick dude like post your list and he posted it, and it was like under his mock field. I'm looking, I'm like, this is my deck. This is my 75. Like this is just he just took my 75.
yeah,
Like I want to compare notes, and nobody's playing this deck.
that's something that a lot of like other formats, it's really difficult to do. It's really difficult to design something that nobody's seen or nobody's played, or like a 75 that feels different, right? And I've talked about it a couple times in a couple different settings, but I am going to be chasing the high that I got from those first like, months after I made Lich's Mirror combo for the rest of my life.
Yeah, yeah. It was like
Like,
it was like synonymous with like COVID for me. I remember, and like what I mean by that is like I will never forget going into just random deck list conversations and people being like, "Well, you have no turn one interaction for like Channel Mirror," or like, "Well, if you don't
mhm.
have Spell Pierces in your blue deck, how are you going to be Channel Mirror? Like, you should be playing Commandeer." And I was like, "Guys, I just like you just might not play it. Like, there might be
Oh
you
yeah,
might go a whole event and like get to the top eight, maybe at top eights, you like may not play it till the finals. Like, it's not like." And then we were still seeing events where it would be over a dozen people or whatever, and not a single person would have it. And people would be like, "Yeah, Channel Mirror would like tear up this meta." It's like people are not everybody's gonna play
yeah.
that deck. It's not like the
Oh yeah, and like that's a real big thing in our format is like, so Star City Games Cincinnati, really important like tournament. We knew there was going to be a massive group of people there. We were expecting 50 plus. We ended up getting to 70 plus in the 1K. We were the second or third largest event they had all weekend at that Star City Games. And I ended up being the only person that played Channel Mirror. Like 5 people that were in the mod team that were in our discussion brought Mono Blue Spirits to beat me
Yeah.
because that was the only matchup that I felt like was, a 5-10 percenter.
Wasn't that
And
Boros Energy did well that weekend, right? Because didn't it?
yeah, two in the top 8, Doot and Servo.
Yeah.
Uh, uh another moderator or another admin in Servo that I forgot that isn't in the Cincinnati area. But yeah, he played both of them played Boris Energy. Dude actually beat me in the quarterfinals of that tournament. After pretty heavily saying that he had no chance in us talking before the match, he
Yeah.
was pretty convinced that he could not win the matchup.
Yeah. Which that actually getting in because I do want to talk some like meta or like deck list yap in here.
Mhm.
If we had like a 1K today, or like wake up tomorrow morning, Sunday morning, and then you have a 1K. What do you think you would play?
For me, it's either Mirror or Dredge. Uh, I think that Mirror, like turn to non-interactive combo decks, are still something that a lot of people, uh, like I'd say half the field just isn't prepared for at a lot of our 1Ks. Um, be it that they just aren't mulliganing to hands that have like Inquisition, Duress, or Hymn to Torok, or like Spell Pierces, or they just don't have any way to interact like the Boros Energy decks don't in game ones. Um,
Yeah, that's what I
and I think
think.
the same.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think it's the same for Dredge. I think that a lot of people have taken out their main board copies of Soul Guide Lantern for main board copies of like Vexing Bauble in a lot of the like Rakdos Luris and Energy Shells. And I think that a lot of uh the Dredge decks just I think they're going to just steal a game in game one and then just you have to play a game in game two or game three, and that's what Dredge likes to do is like say, hey, how many pieces of graveyard hate do you have? Can you actually beat this?
Yeah, I think that they both kind of have different issues on like if I'm sitting down against them, like what I need to worry about. Where like to your point, like when I build most of my decks now, just in general, I want to have like 4 pieces of like decent grave hate, and then I can maybe have like some overlap cards that just like naturally can interact with the graveyard. But I always build that because there are weird times that you can just sit down and like maybe somebody has like some weird version of like oops, just because like a lot of those cards have like gone up, but like people are still trying it. Like Hogak Roots is also still just like a super popular deck that
Yeah,
like once again, like I see that deck I feel like at least bi-weekly in results, especially online. And then like to your point, it's like people aren't playing like any grave hate. Um, and then Dredge even like I don't want to get caught in a spot where like I sit down game one and I know that I'm gonna lose that game one, just because like I didn't have the sideboard pieces, and then I look at my sideboard and I'm like, I don't have anything. Like I don't have any
yeah,
way to interact with this. Like that's just it's too free to play like 4 lanterns, or if you're like super linear that you don't want lantern, that you have like Rav Trap. Like all of that stuff is like I feel like easy to really easy to put in your sideboard. And then I think Mirror's a little different where when you play against Mirror, like you need a very selective, like not even really storm hate, but just like combo hate, where you can have people playing things like Damping Sphere, just in general. Sometimes we see like Deafening Silence if budget can afford it. But like a
hmm
lot of those cards are like good. Like you need to have them before turn two some games. And then there's also like a lot of ways that that deck's built that you can just like wish for just some like a naturalize effect and without even diluting like your deck. So um it's kind of unique where you can't just slap like 4 cards on the board and say this is going to be my plan for like Lich's Mirror. It's like I have no idea like what I'm gonna do against this deck that may kill me turn two if they get the sauce.
Yeah, I mean, and that SCG tournament that we talked about a little bit ago that I top aided in this format with Lich's Mirror, I had a game where my opponent played a turn one deafening silence, or sorry, turn one dampening sphere, and I had the turn one kill, and I was like, okay, play a land, pass, and then they had nothing behind it, and I was like, play a land, play a land, play a land, and then I was just like, I have. I had at that point, I think like 6 or 7 extra mana, uh, for my initial go, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna go and try. And I ended up finding the naturalize effect and killing the dampening sphere on like my third iteration of the combo because it doesn't actually cast that many spells.
Yeah. And the other thing too is
So,
like with the channel, once you hit mirror, like once you get a reset, like you have just like essentially 19 colorless mana, before the
oh
20th
yeah,
kills you. So it's like you can start taxing things, but if you're able to find like channel and then mirror super early, you get at least one redraw, if not like potentially more.
mhm,
And that's where it's like I love Damping Sphere. Like we actually before Mir got bugged on Moto for the 1 Eldrazi video, I remember I kept a hand that was like land. I think it was like a Eldrazi temple actually, but it was like land, Soul Ring, Damping Sphere on turn one, and then I think I had like a turn four kill after that. I still think I just like died on turn three, or like something
yeah,
crazy. Like it's just like the deck is super unique at what it does, and it's I think it's not like oh this deck folds to permission, but I think it's like pretty soft to some of the cheaper interaction we get in the format, like a timely spell pierce or like a foil or a commandeer. But it's just like those cards don't see like a ton of play. Like Spell Pierce does, but Spell Pierce also probably like the weakest out of those at interacting. With the
yeah.
with
I live in fear of a reverent silence. I'm just saying,
yeah,
like my opponent being on the play and playing 2 white mana out. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm dead. I can never beat this card.
yeah. I really like mono white Stompy, which has been like creeping up just because of White Plume. But I was packing three Nevermore because you could turn to a Nevermore. And wow, once again, it's not like game ending, but
Mhm.
if I can either name Channel or Lich's Mirror off of that Nevermore, potentially have two of them, then it's like you have to do a lot of work to just like get yourself back out under this. So there's a lot of things you can do. It's just like it's such a unique way that it kind of challenges your deck building on the other side of the table.
Oh yeah, and I think that there's a lot of the decks in this format that do that. That it's not like you're designing a deck for modern where you put you make a deck that works and then you think about the top 5 decks of the format and go, how do I beat these? This is a format where you have to like really think about like, okay, there's these niche decks in the format that are kind of doing these random things. How am I going to what's my plan of action against them? What am I doing against them? And that's really the zone that I like to live in. I mean, you guys have seen quite a lot of decks that I have designed that kind of play along a different axis of the game.
Yeah, I think that um, something that's unique with our format too, excuse me, is sideboarding for a lot of other formats. You're basically like to your point, you're like, I want to answer like basically these 3 to 5 decks that are super popular, and then maybe I have some overlap or like a couple cards that are for just generic answers or like the tier twos. Where ours, like a principle that I actually do with a lot of my deck building is just like I want 4 pieces of Grave Hate, I want X amount of like artifact, maybe enchantment, maybe some creature removal. And this is mainly for like a lot of like aggro to control like mid-range sideboarding. Combo and stuff's obviously different because you're not really like you don't really care as much what your opponent's doing. But I think that that is what helps out a lot with some of my decks is that no matter what, like, do I have the best answer for the deck? No, but I know that this card has applications outside of like the red black Luris player, and then it's also maybe good against like the scam decks, and then it's just there's some amount of overlap that maybe it's not the best, but ultimately I built my main deck to be the best that it could be there. That, whatever my dead cards were versus you, like I have this kind of generic like Path to Exile or just like whatever swap I can make that just happens to kind of apply because I wanted it to have like generic blanket coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I view a lot of my deck building in this format as very like subtle. Like I don't go super deep onto like a lot of different things. And one of the main reasons there is if you look at like the control decks, so you said that you like to play Ripfield. A lot of the times with Ripfield and a lot of the times with those style of decks, you are you're trying to find the answers to the questions. Your opponent represents a question, represents a way to win the game, and you have to have the answer to win that, to beat that. And it's like, okay, what's that answer look like? Is it a timely reinforcements, or is it uh, another way of gaining life or another way of making blockers? Is it a loose focus or a counter spell? You guys have to really weigh, especially in our format, the cost benefit analysis of each one on how much does it cost mana wise, but also how much does it cost resources wise whenever it comes to that budget. Where I think that one of the easiest things that happens in some of the decks that I play, namely Dredge, and like where I've gone with that, is my sideboard in Dredge is 4 cards. It is Spell Pierce to answer opposing combo decks and Ravenous Trap. It is uh, Pithing Needle to answer Soul Guide Lanterns and Tormod's Crypts. It is Stern Dismissal to answer creatures and enchantments. And it is oh my goodness, I can't think of the name of the card. The mm, Sailor's Bane, excuse me, Sailor's Bane to answer to ask a different question of, okay, you were able to answer my graveyard. Can you have the answer to this question now? And I think that that's the way that I build a lot of decks. Is I build a lot of decks to answer or to ask the question of like, hey, how do you like? I'm going to attempt to win the game this way. Can you beat this? And I think that that's the way that I play Mirror. I mean, a deck that we haven't talked about here that I've been championing that I don't think nearly enough people play in Restore Balance Control is a deck that it's a control deck that asks that question. It just says, hey, I'm going to essentially like stacks this game out, put you down as far on resources as possible. Uh, how are you going to rebuild? How are you going to come back in this game?
I think we're actually almost getting into like one of the next questions that I wanted to ask, which is, what you think like your dark horse or maybe just like an underplayed deck is. Because I know that back towards Eternal Weekend, you were talking a lot in the Discord about Restore Balance and about how it is underplayed, just because of the axis that it kind of hits on. Like, would you say that that's your pick for like the like nobody's really playing this, nobody's really like working on this?
Yeah, that's. I mean, it's a deck. I have a lot of these decks that I kind of am the only one that champions. For a while, it was Dredge. For a while, it was Lich's Mirror. Lich's Mirror kind of caught on a little quicker, but Restore Balance was is definitely one of those that I think. I mean, I've been playing it for probably about a year and a half now at this point, and really hasn't caught on. I think like 2 other people have started playing it, but I really think that the if the meta wants to play fairly and people want to play, they don't want to play High Tide, they don't want to play Lich's Mirror, and they don't really want to play like the busted graveyard decks. If everybody's trying to play like Wilderness Wreck and um a lot of these like Jund style decks or Eldrazi or elves or things that like want to play to the board, Restore Balance just eats those matchups for lunch. Like, and I think that it's incredibly difficult for them to beat that matchup.
Yeah, I know that Cloud Post is another matchup too that you're like super excited to see like a Cloud Post tap turn one just because you set them back entirely too far. Like it's just like the most free 2-0. I think it was like an 11-minute match or something. Like when you played it at
Yeah,
Eternal Weekend for the one video, it was like incredibly short.
yeah, especially the green post variants. The blue post variants, they can get enough in play that it can start being an issue. But the green post variants, I can just set them back to square one with even after they've played something big, and it just doesn't matter. And then you just get to win the game at your convenience. I think if Restore Balance could figure out how to beat the like the graveyard decks and beat the combo decks at the same time, I think that that deck would be like tier one easily. Uh, that deck's incredibly good at what it does, and especially the control matchups of like making them play on your axis for long enough and then putting them down to zero resources. It definitely is a difficult deck, especially if you don't know how to play against it and you don't know how to hold lands in your hand and play around things. Our matchup at Eternal Weekend is one of those where like I just think I think you would have beat me if you had more reps against Restore Balance.
Yeah, I also like that that's actually I wouldn't say it's my top pick, but I was playing Mono Blue Delver and it's actually a pick of mine for maybe the Invitational in a couple weeks. Like it's like up on my list just because of how my bracket's set up. But I think that deck, especially my iteration, is like really, really strong. But it kind of has the same issues where like people doing the unfair stuff or you know, the hyper aggressive, even just the aggro decks, you know, you kind of farm them because they put so much into the early game and you have like foils and dazes just to like mess with that tempo, and then you recoup so much for your cruises, like your spell dancers, like doubling like your impactful spells. So that deck is really solid at those matchups, but at the same point, like your control decks really body you because they can just sit there and wait. And while you could like maybe play a Delver and they take a couple hits, like at some point they can swords it and like your lose focus or spell pierces are bad, or they can counter your counter spell because you're like playing less lands. And like to your point, I think that I I don't know if it was, I think it was game three. There was a game that I like sat with like so many spell pierces and like hindsight knowing I have so many spell pierces and things like that, I would have tried to start tagging your early game posts because then I'm just like
Yeah.
setting you back, like you bounced your land, you lost that tempo, now you're just gonna play basic and like you're behind on mana. You know, it's like almost like wastelanding oddly in this format. But
Hmm.
at the
Oh
time
yeah.
I was like so stressed about you resolving either a balance or just like an impactful planeswalker, and there was like a pivotal turn where you ricochet trapped something of mine, and I just like didn't have enough like stuff going on that I could still interact with. I think it was either it was Oko. Yeah, you had an Oko that I was
Yeah.
like fighting over, and despite still I had like four cards left in my hand still, but I just didn't have enough lands up, and like I feel like I should have maybe interacted earlier, but you know, it's that deck too in the same way of like restore balance. Like I see a lot of people who will post lists and they're like all over the place. Like I'm even trying Grand now. Like apparently Grand's even the truth here without lessons. So I'm gonna like, you know,
Gran is the truth.
yeah, I'm gonna mess
That
around
old
with
lady
Grand.
can get it.
Yeah, yeah,
That old lady gets in.
yeah. And that's where you know, I want to like try that, you know, try that style with it now. But you know, it's kind of unfortunate because you're kind of like on your own with like, all right, like what's working because nobody else is really trying it. But I do think restore balance, like that's one that's like you like want to put it on the shelf of like we should be aware that this is like good, but unfortunately, like nobody wants to pick this up. You know, like I played against somebody online who was they had like some red black stuff and they were doing I think demonic dread or
Mhm.
whatever. Like they had some like other iterations, but it's like I've literally maybe seen that deck like twice. in results like between yours and like somebody else's.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a deck that like I mean, it's really not a deck that whenever you look at it in paper, it looks powerful.
It's not
You're
exciting.
like,
Like it doesn't
yeah,
look
it's not
exciting.
exciting. It looks like, I mean, you look at all of the other Cascade decks in our format. Rhinos, you're putting, 10 power into play on turn 2 or turn 1 sometimes. Uh Lich's Mirror, sometimes you're winning the game on turn 1, sometimes you're winning, it's a pretty consistent turn 2 win. And then the hypergenesis of the world and the living ends of the world, like they're doing these big flashy things where restore balance goes, oh yeah, by the way, you're down to 0 lands and 2 cards in hand, go. Like it
Yeah.
it's not doing this like super impressive and flashy thing every time that you cascade, and it kind of feels like, okay, what now, what do you do after that? And like it's like, well, after that I'm just basically a Jund deck that has 3 extra mana and an ability to, this planeswalker that's going to win the game in 2 turns. Like,
Yeah, and that's what's what's also kind of funny about it too is like it almost looks like super fair. When you think about
mhm,
Cascade, like it's probably the most fair Cascade deck like on the surface because you talk about like Hypergenesis and all those other decks that are like abusing spirit guides and things like that. Like you're really not. What you're doing is you're
no,
trying to get ahead on the mana advantage by doing your border post things so that way when you do balance, you're still ahead on mana. But functionally, you're just kind of like trying to survive till you can cast your 3 drop that cascades into your balances. And then after that, you're just like kind of like a mopey rug mid-range deck playing like Okos and like Mince and Booze, right? Like, but you're
yeah,
not like Hypergenesis, Warstorm Surge, Bogarden Hellkite, or like Living End, Grief, like Architects will. You're just like, all right, I'm gonna like try to sort of get ahead on mana and then like be ahead on parity with cards in hand, lands, etc. But it doesn't read that it's like super unfair. It reads that you're like just kind of like Armageddon mid range.
I mean, it's really strange to say about the deck that's trying to put its opponent down to 0 lands and a one-sided Armageddon, but it's definitely the most fair of our Shardless Agent Violent Outburst decks in the format. It's the one that plays on the most fair axis.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything that you're working on though that is like close? Like and I don't necessarily mean like oh I'm at $32 and I can't figure out what to do with it, but like is there anything that like you're testing and you're just kind of like man like I like it's almost there. Like I don't know what it needs. Like maybe it needs this one card to come down, or like maybe like I'm missing something. But what do you think right now that you're working on that maybe the group help would get it there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I probably have like 20 or 30 lists that I could put in this category. But the one that I've been putting the most work onto recently, one that actually was in I believe, a video with you, was the Mulch mana bond list. Um, that list is really close to being something. Now, the prices are fluctuating. I'm having a little bit of issues on. I really desperately want to keep 2 Life from the Loam in the list because Life from the Loam has just been a very, very busted card for that strategy. But ultimately, like, I think that that list, like, it does something that is first off obnoxiously unfair in just like playing a mana bond and going, Here's 6 lands or 5 lands, I'm now up on a ton of resources and I'm dust bowling you and I'm ghost quartering away lands and I'm just like getting them back with life from loams, but it also just continues to do that thing over and over again because of life from the loam and because of Sandman, uh which was such a good threat. Like I've looked at that list for a while, and that's such a good threat for that list. Um, I think that that list has a couple holes, and I think there's some things that I'm trying to work on with it. But ultimately, I think that deck is like, I mean, very close.
Yeah. Do you? I can't remember. Were you just basically like mono green?
Yeah. So I thought about each color of splash. Splashing white adds like some of the like silence effects that I think can be very good for against some of the combo decks. Splashing blue adds some permission and some counter spells. Um, the main issue that I see with a lot of the splashes in that deck are your main game plan puts 0 cards in your hand, so it can be very hard to like have an interesting way of interacting with your opponent in the unfair matchups if you're just at 0 cards. So
So,
it feels a lot like the mono green border post or cloud post decks, in that like you're doing this absurdly powerful thing and this thing that puts you up on resources, but then, like, if your opponent also does an absurdly powerful thing, you just hope that your thing's better.
yeah, so I was working on Mana Bond too when it first, like, I haven't touched that list in like a minute, but mine was green blue, and the big things that brought me into green blue was one was Uro, just
Mhm,
because like Uro's Uro, it was good, and then like oddly I had the budget for like two or three of them. And that was like another axis to kind of attack on whenever you're like mulching and bidding like random things. But then I was also doing treasure hunt because going
mhm.
like mana bond, and then even if you could put like a land or two in hand, going like turn two treasure hunt to pick up maybe like four or five lands. And then you can do the mana bond there, and then potentially we can start doing things with Uro. But I don't remember what else. I feel like I had maybe some other blue things going on in the list, but I can't remember. But I really liked how it looked, but I was also like one of those ones where I was like I hadn't tested it. I was doing like the test draws, and I'm like, this seems fine, but I'm also like, I feel like I want my mid range or like control decks to like interact in like a different axis. It's like one of the reasons like I don't really play like Cloud Post because I don't like the like I'm like, hopefully I drew like the disruptor flutes or like whatever that I had in my board, and this is like the main way I'm interacting. It's like if I'm building post, I'm gonna play blue post because I know that like I can at least interact with my opponent during the game. And I think that was my issue where I was like, I wanted to shelf that deck because no matter what, I'm like, I have a lot of lands in play, but I'm not really like I have lands. We don't have four shot and
Oh yeah.
ports that we can just like put in this, you know. So um,
Dust Bowl has helped quite a bit, and it's really helped to like be on 3 ghost quarters that like I can kind of tax my opponent in a way that forces them to make plays and forces them to play things. Uh, I've actually thought about adding in a basic to my Lich's Mirror deck because of the Mana Bond deck, and like just if I'm playing against Ghost Quarter. I know it's something that somebody had done in another tournament. They added a couple basics to their Lich's Mirror deck. I think I'd only want one. Each basic adds quite a lot of variability that I don't like to that mana base, but I do really think that like the mana bond deck is close enough that like it could be scary. It can definitely do some scary things. I mean, it's not just the deck that like hopes to put into play a turn one Merit Lodge. Uh, it definitely. I mean, there have been some control matchups where I've brought back like the same Sandman like 3 or 4 times. Uh, and like Dust Bowl my opponent, brought back the land that I Dust Bowled with and the Sandman back on their end step. It's like, yeah, that's a 9 mana play, but it's pretty good. And then just force them to deal with this Sandman again.
see, I think it's funny that like because I'm wired like the totally opposite side of that spectrum where you're like, I want a basic in my Lich's Mirror deck for the Ghost Quarter because like in my brain, like if I'm like sitting down, like if I'm the mirror player and you go like turn one mana bond, where like a lot of people like in a lot of matchups are probably like, oh mana bond, like probably doing a lot of things with his lands, like gonna interact my strategy. I'm sitting there like I'm gonna play this like double mana like turn one land tapped and like have the most free match of my life because this guy's gonna put in like 4 lands that I don't care about, and then I'm gonna kill him next turn. Like that, like that's like the other end of the like I'm like this is so free for me. But I think it's funny that like you played
Well,
both of those decks and like you mainly play beer and you're like ooh I have to like tweak this because like this might happen to me. Like
I mean, it's something that I've thought of, and it's one of the things that like with my deck philosophy that has really changed over the years is if you look at my mirror deck, look at my mirror deck versus the one that I was just talking about that ran the basics. He ran those two basics over two cards that I would never in my life dream of cutting from the main deck in Ravenous Trap and Mystical Dispute. There are one of each of those cards in the main deck for a very specific reason. And it was the first time I sat down and was actually going through test hands with that deck and testing with it. I was thinking about what does this hand lose to? What matters? And I came to the realization that there were a number of hands that if my opponent played an island and passed on turn one and I did not kill them, and then they played an island and passed and had a counterspell in their hand, I have lost the game.
yeah,
I no longer am able to win the game as long as they represent this counterspell for the rest of the game. And that is just not acceptable for me. So if you look at my channel mirror lists, you'll see the Raven. You see you'll see, not Ravenous Trap, Ricochet Trap. Excuse me. You'll see Ricochet Trap, you'll see Mystical Dispute, and you will see Twin Shot Sniper in all of them, and as well as the Perilous Vault now. But the Twin Shot Sniper was the same question of what does this lose to, and my brain just immediately hit the idea of like it almost always is the case that against the humans matchup, which was really big at the time, Benvi plays very well. They are a very established player and very good. um, if my opponent just played a meddling mage on turn two and named channel, I died. Like I
yeah.
could not win the game anymore.
Yeah,
So
your
you
twin
just
shot sniper, I'm trying to think, hit something when I was playing mono blue because you had it in restore balance also. And
Mhm.
I remember seeing it being like actively, I don't think it was the spell pierce one, but I remember you did it to me and I had like multiple pieces like interaction hand. I'm like, this is so annoying. Like this is like this I just it's like killing my it was like a spell dancer too. Like I think I was like getting ready to
Yeah, I
start
think
getting like
so.
value out of it. And you were like and I cast something else and you're like in response, shoot this guy. And I'm just like, that's rude. Like what did he do? Um
No, Twitch Shot Sniper has been really, really good. You don't know how many times like I've used Twin Shot Sniper to kill like a random Thalia Guardian of Thraben, and them just like point at my lands and be like, "But you only had two." Oh wait,
yeah,
that's annoying.
it's like in the same realm as like all the channel lands for like other formats and then
Yeah.
which actually I need to stop saying that because we were working on creativity like a week
Mhm.
ago and I was working on it I was
Playing
at
some
work.
Sokenzons.
Yeah, I have two Sokanzons in my list.
Oh
So
baby.
that way you can just like
Oh,
end step turn four, you're leaving up counter magic, and then you can
are
pitch
you
it.
what are your targets for that? Are you on the two card combo that was on in Pioneer,
No.
or are you just playing some Pyroglyphs?
So, and this is where we were discussing this in the Discord because I'm on the Pyregoist main because I do think that that's really good because like one bad thing about creativity is like sometimes especially in the fair matchups like you have such a long game one because like you're reactive you start drawing like in modern like your archons and things like that or in Pioneer
Mhm.
you draw your combo now you're like I need a volcanic salvo and I need to like shoot something with it so I can tuck one of the combo pieces.
Yeah.
But in this one, it's like, all right, I could get to like maybe 7 mana, Pyroglyph, shoot something, shoot you, and then like leave up interaction. But
Yeah.
what I like just from I played a lot of creativity between Pioneer and Modern. It was one of like probably like my top 3 or 4 decks ever, like for Modern. And what I really like about how I built the sideboard is I have a couple of like I have one or two Progenitus. I have an Iona and then an Archon of Valor's Reach. and then I still feel like I'm missing another target that's not coming to mind. But like my whole idea with it was maybe it's just two Progenitus and then like a 1-in-1 with those. So Progenitus is like, all right, they're definitely going to interact with our Pyrogoyphs. Or like maybe Pyrogoyph just doesn't immediately win the game. Like maybe they're able to kill one, or it can hit our graveyard, whatever. But the original pilot was playing Progenitus, and I like that idea a lot because it's super powerful for our format. Excuse me. And
Mhm.
I was talking to Dude actually about the Iona and Archon split. Simple thing first off is Iona is just kind of pricey, so it's really hard to get two. But the other piece to it is um, his argument was like, oh, just play one. But I get
Yeah.
so much out of my deck right now that I don't have to play things like Brain Surge or Volcanic Salvo. Brain Surge is like a good card, but
Yeah.
the list is built where you're not penalized for drawing your creatures immediately, like with the Pyrogoyphs. So you're not going to change your main deck because your sideboard plan needs to like work like that. Instead, I'm just going to say, okay, maybe I drew my Iona. This sucks. I can like discard it or Faithless Looting for like a better card. But what I can do is
Mhm.
I still know on turn 4 with one creativity target that I can like lock out High Tide, for example. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I really like I actually really like that build. I was looking at it maybe for like a video. But it's just it's really it's in that camp of like not a lot of people are doing this, probably because it just doesn't look exciting. Like it doesn't look like it's more powerful than rhinos or this or that, but it
Mhm.
also just is like you could go 5 mana creativity end the game, and the whole time before that you're just like holding up lose focus, cycling like a shark typhoon, and then post board you have like such a heavy pivot where you're still doing like the permission thing early on, and then the moment that you can creativity for 4, which like your opponent's not prepared for, you either win the game on the spot or like in those matchups you have like a Progenitus, which is functionally like almost the same thing. So I think that
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
super unique. Like it's like super cool deck.
Yeah, I actually was looking at a lot of those lists, and it made me really want to work on Pyrogoyf, because like I think that Pyrogoyf's just like a very, very strong card in our format.
Absolutely.
That, I mean, it's a build around card that is worth 75 cents.
It's
Like,
even just
it
like
just,
strong and like Jund. Like I know that
yeah, oh yeah.
Devin did well in one of the online events, and then I saw some other people doing like something very similar with Jund, but it's like if you're doing like Inquisition, Hymn to Torok, and then like Grist or just like any other 3-drop into like Pyrogoyf, like that's a really strong like curve. Like that's strong enough
Oh
for
yeah.
our format.
Yeah, I mean, I've been working on an Oath of Druids Pyrogoyf deck that, Oath just fuels your graveyard. It makes your Pyrogoyfs bigger. And so, like, the whole premise of the deck is you play Pyrogoyfs, you play Oath of Druids, you play Tarmogoyf Nests to possibly like grind and like make more of those types of things. But then also Oath of Druids mills cards, so you just play Creeping Chill.
I just
And
it sounds so funny that it's just like I'm playing fair Oath of Druids. Like I'm playing like Oath of
no, no,
Druids.
I'm playing super unfair Oath of
Okay,
Druids. I'm
it
just
it,
playing an
it
Oath of
sounds
Druids deck
it
that
sounded
kills
pretty
you.
fair. Yeah, you're like, yeah, I played these mid
Yeah, I
range
mean,
things like Tarmogoyf Nest. Like I'm thinking like, oh yeah,
yeah.
you just get to a point where like you've kind of interacted a little bit, and then you're like, I'm gonna try to hit like a Pyrogoyf that like hits you for 6, but you're like, no, I'm like creeping chill, like trying to
Yeah,
like blast them.
dude, I've got
All right,
Conflagrate in my list. Do you think I'm playing some fair Magic?
sure, yeah,
Where we've got 4 Creeping Chill and 4 Lightning Bolt in in my deck. Let's kill them.
yeah, sounds real fair. Yeah. I do want to get close to wrapping up here, but just like a
Yeah.
couple closeout questions for you. Like, I know super early on we talked about like some things that you really enjoyed, like as you were like a mod or an admin about like the community. But like, what do you think is something that you enjoy the most about being a an admin for the community? Like, what's something that kind of like it feels impactful for you?
I mean, ultimately for me, watching the format grow has been insane. That's been very impactful for me. I mean, obviously, the thing that I really put pride in, and the thing that I really wanted to make work, was our work on online, which I know that like you did a lot with. You were there in LFG putting together games, asking people to play, being somebody that people could play against, and like I did that as well, and like trying to like get people to play. And then like yeah, obviously the professor's video that they put out on Tulare Community College made our format like it really helped us quite a bit. But what it really helped us with was, I mean, at any time of night now, you can put in an LFG game and be able to play this format, which in the past wasn't able to be said. There were a lot of times that you'd put in for looking for game and sit there for 2 hours, 3 hours, and never play. And I really feel like I'm really prideful in the fact that now like we have a space that people can just like they can actually play the format
Yeah,
and actually can get in and actually do it.
Yeah, I actually remember at one point, and I know that the user I actually just saw them active the other day too, and it was somebody who before the video came out, and I think we were still like sub 2000 in the Discord. They had posted like some looking for games, and like then they're asking some questions, like beginner questions. I was just trying to be polite and like answer because I don't even think I was a mod at the time. And
Mhm.
then they like messaged me off the side like, hey, like is this like really common? Like I'm really trying to like jam games and like it doesn't seem like they were like kind of just like disappointed and I felt bad because like I think I was at work or like I just couldn't get on at the time and I was just like, yeah, I mean there's times where like there's a lot of people and then other times it's just like kind of dead. But like at the same point, like it's still such like a growing community where we have like some days it's like not that you can't find like an MTGO game, but it seems like it takes like a while. And then like on the other side of things, like that channel's still going off of like webcam games or like trice games, you know, that they want to like do these like other things, which is fine. It's just like it's crazy to see that a long time ago, well, not even a long time ago, like 6 months to a year ago, it was like,
But
okay,
3 months,
yeah,
4 months ago.
yeah, like you would go on and it would be hours, and then now it's like, you know, you might be able to sit there and even if it's with the same players, like almost play like all day, like if you really had the
Yeah, I
time.
mean, yeah, we've been talking for an hour, and I just checked, and there are three separate people that are looking for games, and probably more than that that are just joining
Yeah, on just like a random like, you know, Saturday
Saturday
afternoon.
evening.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, um, and then you know, I didn't see so far, but I know we're close to like double digits already signups for the MTGO event that's going on tomorrow, Sunday at noon.
Hmm.
And there's already, you know, I think Magic players in general, but even the VV players are very last minute. And now we're getting to a
Oh
point where
yeah.
there's a lot of people who are, you know, just preemptively signing up. So it's good to see. Um, but then, you know, just one last question I have, and you know, I'm not sure if this really applies, but is there anything that you know you're working on right now with the community or the format, like any projects or like anything on the back end that you want to share?
Uh, I have a lot of ideas, and that's something that I've always been an idea person. I've always been a person that has like a lot of wild things that I'll present and kind of like talk about and see if like other people want to do and other people want to move towards. The thing that I really want for the future of us is uh, we've done a lot of work with Star City Games and Nerd Rage, and now doing stuff through Shoebox and doing stuff through CubeCon and then Eternal Weekend, obviously, this year. And it's definitely not going to be something for this year, but I'm hoping 2027 that we have a like, hey guys, we're going to throw a $5,000 tournament and it is value vintage.
Yeah.
Like it is a value vintage weekend. Like come out, we'll have side events, we'll have prizes, we'll have things going on, and let's get, you and 140 to 200 of your closest friends together playing this format that we love.
Yeah, I think that, and you made like some call outs about like a lot of the tournament series. Like there's a lot of potential to get them involved just by like asking. Like Eternal Weekend, we just
Oh
we
yeah.
we just like asked, and it was a pretty good success there. It was like super successful actually. I don't know why I'm under valuing it. And then really the same thing for a store that's closer to PA, and obviously in Ohio is like Apex Gaming in Caldwell, where
Oh yeah.
they ran that 1K from just like the guys asking, and then they ran like another one which like had okay turnout. I think it was like kind of weathery where there was like 16 to 20 people or something, but they still paid out. It was just like they did partial in credit. And then they didn't really have anything on their radar with it after that for a bit. And then at the Apex cons, I was just kind of asking them, like, do you guys just mind running like a side event? And they asked, like, well, what do you want to see with it? Like cash prize, like prize tag, and they were able to like, now what they do is they do so much more in like prize tickets. It's like 150% paid out in the prize wall tickets. And like our
Yeah.
very first one we had was like in the 20s, and they were like because they're like we didn't think there'd be this many people for a side event. And in the same vein, there are some weekends where it's like kind of low attendance, but the biggest thing for me is just like I know that if I go to Apex for one of their Apex cons, I can play Value Vintage, and it's just because we like expressed and we asked for it. And that's really like the
Yeah.
1K that's like
Absolutely.
next weekend. It's the same way. I just asked them like, hey, I know your guys' calendar until like March gets super light. Do you guys mind adding like a Value Vintage weekend? And they're like, yeah, what weekend do you want? Like what weekend works. And it's just like
Yeah.
asking. So I think that's big for like a lot
And
of people who are watching. Like just ask your local, store. If they have like a large enough storefront, just see if they'll do it.
yeah, I mean, and it's definitely different than a lot of other formats. Because in a lot of other formats, it's you go to your local store and you say, "Hey, do you have a modern night,
Yeah,
or do you have a legacy night, or do you guys ever play vintage?" And it's like they kind of have these answers of like when or no, and like if we get a big enough crowd, because like your local store will do anything that brings in people, trust me. I have worked with a lot of them. Your local store will do anything that gets people into that door.
yeah,
um but it's like with our format, and like pre-modern is pretty similar in that realm, I'd say, as well, where like if you go in there and you say, "Hey, I am somebody that plays this format quite a bit. I want to try to get something running here," they're a little bit more receptive to that,
yeah,
because then it's like first off, it's somebody else trying to do the work that they don't want to do, which is, we all like to be a little lazy at times. We'd like for things to be given to us. But like I mean, here in Indiana, for a long time, I didn't want to be the one that had to run things because I knew that like that would kind of cause some issues. I'm not with my work schedule, I'm not always available, and like I don't want things to like peter out just because I'm not able to be there. I wanted somebody else to kind of take the reins that was able to be there a little bit more. Well, down in Southport, Indiana, at White Flag Games, we had somebody that kind of took the reins. He had been playing it kind of casually with a few of his friends. He got more of his friends interested. They asked if they could do a night. And whenever I went down there and played, there were two people outside of that friends group that were there. But we had 10 players, and we played, 3 rounds of some fun Magic the Gathering and some fun Value Vintage. And it was because somebody asked, like you said.
yeah. That's just like I feel like the big thing that people don't think about a lot. They're like, I just don't know how to like start the scene. But it's like if you have like maybe 8 guys that just want to play the format, that's enough to fire just a pod, enough to like fire the
Hmm.
event. And then you kind of cultivate it, you get people to watch. I mean, that's literally what happened at Apex in between. I think I was there for just like I was playing in a team event there actually. It was like standard modern pioneer. And what we were doing is in between rounds, we just literally went to a side table and we're like playing games with people walking up like because they saw like Luris and Uro and like some odd things and they're like what are you guys
Oh,
like what are you playing? And that's just like kind of how you do it. It's just like the same thing. Like if you're at an F&M and people come in for commander or something like that, and then they like look in and they were like watching what you're doing. You just kind of need to like start that like that spark, and then you just need to try to get the buy-in from from the local store. So I think that
Oh yeah.
that's like a real important piece to grow in the community in a way like that. But
I'm telling you, the biggest thing for local stores, there are two things that this format does, that one of them is a given and one of them is something that they have to work for a little bit. But they have to work for getting people in the door. Once we can get people in the door and once people we can get people playing, we all know that this format's awesome. People are going to continue playing. And number two, stores have a lot of crap cards that are in that like 50 cents to a dollar range that our format is the only one that plays and
yeah,
they really want to get rid of those cards.
yeah, I love buying like the like I want to see people who like fulfill my orders sometimes, because like I want to know like because they're obviously looking at some of these packages and like if you buy like one of them, so like, oh, this guy's like buying stuff for his commander deck, but I'm buying like play sets of like just stuff. I like just like things that you're what is this guy like buying for? Like I wanted to build primal prayers, and there's the 2-drop that Boros Energy plays that I can't think of the name of it, but
Oh, the Fallout Commander
yeah,
card.
it like anthems your board. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have
Yeah.
4 of those in, so that immediately they're like, I don't know what format this guy's playing. He did 4 of this, and then it's like, let me get that. Let me get some God of Souls. So like, okay, this guy's playing like an energy deck, and it's like, okay, let me get 2 Hope Estham. I think that's how you say it from Final Fantasy, and it's like, okay, he's gaining life, and Milik, like I don't know what he's doing. So like, I would like to know like if at any point anyone watching this is fulfilling orders like this, like I want to know what is going through your head like as you're fulfilling my orders, because I can't imagine that it's like anything like realistic. So
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, there have been some times where I've put in some funky orders to local stores, and I just get somebody that doesn't know who I am. That's like, did you really need 4 copies of Void Mirror, 4 copies of Ruins of Trocaire, and uh, like Mishra's baubles and a Vexing bauble and White Plume Adventures? Like, what are you doing? Like, don't worry about it, dude.
yeah, it's like I just recently because I put through I have a standstill list I was working on. It's like I had 3 of the Avatar foil standstills, like full arts, and
Yeah.
then in the same package was 1 Dreadhorde invasion. And it's like I want that person to be like, what is it like, this one must just be for, he's like playing pre-modern and commander, and it's like, no, it's like same deck, buddy. um but yeah, anyway, I know where we are starting to just yap in general, which has been a lot of
Oh
fun.
yeah.
But I know that this is everybody's idea of a good Saturday night. I know I'm sure you're enjoying it over there, Heidel. I don't know if there's anything
Oh yeah,
else that,
absolutely.
yeah, anything else you want to share before we cut away.
No, I just hey guys, thanks for, giving us a platform and like letting us like, cultivate this community, cuz it's really the community that's been driving quite a lot of things. We're just trying to keep up with community demands and it's been really awesome to see. Um uh visit the website, use our TCG player link, affiliate link, and like, you know those types of things help us kind of like drive what we're doing and kind of like, add more to what we're doing.
Yeah, that's one thing actually that can you remind me what the website name is, just because we haven't actually like I've never mentioned it on a video. What is the
Uh,
website?
so really easy, and it's kind of funny for you because of your YouTube channel. It is vvmtg.com.
Not affiliated, which is hilarious,
Not
but
affiliated. Not
um
affiliated, but kind of affiliated.
yeah. That's actually I do plan at some point here, at least for like a deck or two, or maybe like a tournament report, putting something out. Like I'd really like to at least write about a lot of the core, maybe not like a primer, but like a lot of the core of like Esper, Ripfield, and so what's like kind of essential, what I'm like kind of just like flexing just because like I have the budget or because obviously it's good. So at some point I'm gonna have something up on there for that. But I know that we have like a lot of all the results are on there too, so you don't have to necessarily go through the Discord. I know there's been a couple articles on there, so it's definitely unique in um, content just right now for Value Vintage.
Oh,
So
yeah, 100%.
yeah, but other than that, I really, really appreciate you coming out and just, having a yap sesh with me, either just going over all the cool things we've talked about with decks and everything. We'll have to at some other point, maybe we can get a larger group on this, see if first and foremost, if you guys liked just this style of content, let me know below, just so that way I kind of have it on my radar. Um, I make sure you can subscribe also, so that way if you're not already, you know when these are coming out. But ultimately, just also want to thank Heidel for coming on. I literally thought for like an hour ago, I was like I'm gonna say it wrong at the end of the video because I'm not thinking about it. But just want to appreciate you coming on and just kind of being the first one to have this to have the Yap session.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me out.
Yeah, of course. So with that, we're gonna wrap things up here. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.